What is going to be that one task that I can do today that by doing it is going to make everything else in my progress list going to be that much easier?
You're listening to episode 150 of the Fitness Business Podcast. We'd like to thank this month's premier podcast partner, Team Rockstar Fit, the mastermind team that helps fitness professionals and studios add nutrition, fitness, and online coaching to their existing business with tools from Beachbody. Visit teamrockstarfit.com. Welcome to our first show for February 2018. Let me tell you, it's going to be a huge month up ahead. This month, we've got coming up Thomas Plummer, Emma Barry, Mike McAllowitz is our intensive guest, and this week we have the amazing Greg Sellars joining us on the show. Greg's work in the fitness industry has seen him speak and present training workshops in over 55 countries worldwide, training over 500,000 people in the process. He's a 10-time Idea World presenter and has been recognised as the International Fitness Presenter of the Year in 2010 at the International Fitness Showcase. Having worked with some of the biggest brands in fitness, including Nike, Total Gym, and Bosu, Greg now delivers keynote speeches and his 30-day life hack program to corporates. He uses his degree in sports science and coaching accreditation to help people better understand what makes them tick in a physical and psychological well-being. In today's episode, we talk about questions to ask yourself at the start of a new year, bad habits, traps to avoid falling into, maintenance versus progress tasks, and tips for finding focus and avoiding distraction. Before we get into this week's interview, I want to thank this month's premier podcast partner. Want to lead a happy and balanced life with your career in fitness? Team Rockstar Fit offers mentoring and support to expand your business online with tools from Beachbody. Earn money out of the trenches. Visit teamrockstarfit.com. Greg, welcome along to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I want to set the scene and give everyone a little bit of background as to how we came about to where we are today, because you and I actually did a little bit of filming together at the end of 2017, and we've worked together before. We've known each other for a little while now, but when we were doing that work at the end of last year, some of the topics that we were starting to talk about really struck a chord with me, and I thought this is stuff that's totally relevant and is going to be very interesting for the FBP family. And we sort of were discussing at the time the importance of goal setting and looking at planning your 2018 and organisation for the year ahead. So that's what I'm hoping we can kind of dive into today, and that is having a look at what the year ahead looks like, organising ourselves, planning for the year ahead. So do you want to get things started today by talking us through what the questions are that we need to be asking at the start of the new year?
So I think two of the biggest questions you need to start off with is, what do you actually want? Because I know a lot of people just go from one year to the next, and because they think in the same way and because they typically will behave in the same way as a result of that thinking, one year just literally does become the next. You'll have a brief break over Christmas, everyone gets reinvigorated, they set all these stupid New Year's resolutions that we know very few people keep, and all of a sudden come the end of January into February, you are literally living your life, operating your business in exactly the way that you did last year. And I think if you can keep coming back to the question of what do you actually want, and then that sets the movement or the action plan forward from that of, well, how you're going to get it. I think the other big question that you need to ask is, why are you actually doing it? Because there is a difference between that external motivator and that internal motivator. And what I've found in the past, particularly when money, profits are a motivator for you, because it's an external thing, there is this idea that that's going to provide you happiness. But if you don't have the bigger picture of what is your purpose or what is your meaning for you personally, and it could be in relation to the people coming to your facility or the people whose lives you touch through training or management or as a team leader within a club, then if you don't have those boxes ticked and it's all just doing it for the money or because you want to accumulate more material possessions in your life, then pretty much you're going to end up getting to a point where you are going to become extremely dissatisfied. You get that kind of hollow feeling. Yeah, so they for me are the two questions. What do you want? What do you actually want to achieve? That sets the action plan, so it almost leads to the how, but also why you're doing it. And if you can't answer those two questions well, then I think it's a non-starter for change.
It leads me to think, Greg, I know that it's an easy task to associate and to set our goals to financial markers, I guess. It's quite an easy thing to go about doing that and to set smart goals and go, this is the amount that I either want to earn or the budget that I'm working towards for a set period of time. But it's not always as easy to actually identify what it is that we want and why it is that we're doing it. Sometimes it takes quite a bit of searching to actually discover those answers. Is there any advice that you can give anyone that perhaps is struggling to actually just set that to begin with?
I think broaden your horizons and actually look at your vocabulary. Somebody asked me, what is it you actually want? And I came to the word flexibility. And so my financial gain, my work in the industry, the speaking that I do, the workshops that I hold, the programs that I write, whilst the driver or the thought process was actually initially, oh, how can I make money out of these? Or how do I earn a living by doing what I love? Ultimately, I had to really sit down and think about it. And it was about flexibility. I wanted flexibility in my week. I wanted to be able to know that if it was a nice day, I could pop down to the beach living in Bondi and be okay with that, come back up and get back to work with an open laptop. So for me, my happiness, if you like, and I don't like using that word because I think there's a much bigger game to play, but actually comes from having a flexibility in life, being able to travel, being able to meet new people, being able to influence lots of different audiences. And for me, I had to, like I said, expand my vocabulary. So me, think of other words other than just the normal words that you would use to describe what you want. And you might be surprised at just by spending a couple of minutes on thinking about the question, some of the words that you can actually come up with.
So I want to share with you a story about how I came up with, I guess, my why. And this is particularly, I was in this stage where I came out of 2017 and I was kind of thinking, okay, what does 2018 look like? And a friend said to me, do you have a theme or do you have a word for 2018? And I was like, no, I don't. I hadn't thought about it because I had worked with businesses before that identified a word or a theme, but I had never done it personally. And for me, I started thinking about, okay, what are the different roles that I have and what my life is all about. And as you know, Greg, so I host this podcast. I do the filming work for the Mind series, which is all about health and well-being. And I teach group fitness. And I was thinking for me personally, what's that all about? And then exactly what you're talking about, I kind of did the whole thesaurus and looked at a whole lot of different words. And for personally, I came up with influencing action. Right. And influencing action is something now that I have set as my guiding light for all of the things that I do. And so I think that's along the same lines of what you're talking about. And I love the idea of just having something that really you can focus in on. And then that's kind of your barometer, if you will, for the tasks that you take on or the decisions that you make for your business or in your life. Does it sound like that's what you're referring to?
It's exactly the same thing. You'll be surprised. And I love the fact that you actually reached for the thesaurus, because we all tend to use these words on how we describe either how we're feeling or what we want out of life, and they're all the same like they're all versions of the same thing. And sometimes they're not actually accurate. Like when somebody says they're angry, sometimes they're not actually angry. It's just the first word that they reach for, but they might be a little sad. They might feel discontented. They might feel, I'm not great with the thesaurus without it. But do you know what I mean? It's like, sometimes I think we have to be a little bit more specific, and that comes a lot to our goal settings. It is part of, it's the first part of any SMART goal, is to get specific around it, but not only around what you want, but also in describing. I mean, you would never have come up with inspired action unless you had taken the time and opened the thesaurus. You would have gone, oh, I kind of want more money and I want, more satisfaction. And when you ask people what they want in workshops and trainings, they are typically the words that people come up with. And I just think if we can take a little bit more time, if we can ask ourselves the questions we don't normally ask ourselves, and also challenge ourselves to be more specific around opening up the possibilities to what type of words we use to describe what we want and why we're doing things. I think influencing action is exactly what I'm talking about. And then hopefully you've got those two words up somewhere prominently in front of your laptop, next to your desk, on your desk, written on the wall, whatever it is that's going to be your thing and your theme for this year.
I sure do. It was the first thing that I did. No, sorry, it was the second thing I did. The first thing I did was post it on Instagram to declare to the world that was my theme for the year. But the second thing I did was put it on my desk. So, Greg, one of the things that you mentioned when we first started talking about the new year is how we can so easily roll into the new year and just roll in with the same habits as we had previously without setting the scene, without kind of establishing what it is that we want to achieve. So can you maybe talk us through a few of the harmful status quo's mentalities that will see your new year be the same as our old year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I actually think the status quo is the root of all evil. And I start my keynote speeches with this little equation that says SQ equals, the square root of 666. Like for me, like you, I always got to the end of every year. And my first question is, how is next year going to be different to this year? And what you find is that there are three harmful status quo mentalities. The first one is that if somebody's challenging your point of view, they're wrong. And it leads to this idea of there is actually a right and a wrong, that there has to be a winner or a loser, and there can't be, an opening to what are the possibilities if there is more than one way to get something done. And I think we really need to trash that idea straight away, because if you can't open yourself to the fact that other people might be right, that there are other possibilities to get to a level of success, then you are going to remain stuck. The second is that you should do something that you don't enjoy now in order to do something that you want to, that you can enjoy later on. And it's set up on this stupid 150-year-old paradigm of, us going to school and studying subjects that we typically have no passion or interest in. We don't like them. And then, we're advised by our parents or the careers advisor at school that, oh, this is the job that you should do. And there's no real kind of questioning around what your passions are or what do you really love to do. It's all around like academia or what would be the right thing to do in terms of society. People go and get jobs on the basis of that. They get stuck into jobs or careers that they don't necessarily love, but they tolerate in order to earn an income. They work at it for however many years, changing jobs, in the hope that they'll find that satisfaction. To build an amass an amount of money where they can maybe retire and eventually start to relax and enjoy life. And I'm like, nah, sorry. That's just
no thanks.
No thanks. It's just it shouldn't be that way. And I think it is one thing about that new generation coming through from millennials and I guess the next generation underneath that, for all their problems that the older generations have with some of their behaviors, that is one good thing about what they're coming through, and their mentality is, I want to work around my purpose. So really what you should be able to do is to try and find ways in each day to enjoy what you do. And if you're questioning what you're doing, then look to find ways to change it. This is a big industry. And I think sometimes we can get caught in the idea that I was a personal trainer, I was a group fitness instructor, or I was some kind of manager, and my only progression in this industry is to work up the management ladder to eventually be a club manager, to eventually be an area manager, to eventually be a state manager, or whatever. And I've been so surprised over the last 25 years at the amount of opportunities that come up just from weird and wonderful places. Like my latest one is working with a pharmaceutical company who have a particular product that I did the programming for. They've launched an app, it's gone gangbusters, so we're now looking at book opportunities, we're now looking at holding live events, we're now looking at, the journey that they're taking from weight loss for their customers into more of a holistic sense of well-being. Now, if somebody had said to me, as a glorified Group X instructor for the last 25 years, you'd be consulting with a pharmaceutical company, who has great budget to do the things that you've always wanted to do, and they're treating you as their resource and their consultant for a lot of that, I would have gone, okay, great. Weird, very weird, great. And so, yeah, how do we try and expand again the possibilities? What are the greater horizons of what we can do with what we know? And then the third one is, if somebody doesn't conform to what is normal, and I put that in inverted commas, then they're the weird ones. And I think we can get caught in the fitness industry of poo-pooing a lot of systems, of poo-pooing a lot of equipment, of poo-pooing a lot of training methodologies that don't fit the way we train, or we hold systems, or the equipment we work on. And I find that really bizarre. It's almost the opposite to how I've operated over the last 25 years, where I think as long as somebody's moving, as long as somebody's, up, motivated to exercise, they will get some benefit out of it. It might be not the style of indoor cycling you do. It might not be the piece of equipment that you agree should be done for that particular movement. It might not be a method of heart rate training or a product. I don't know. Everyone gets caught, I think, in that idea that our way is the right way, or that is not normal, and therefore it's weird. And I think once you start placing normalcy on a pedestal, then we're in a little bit of trouble, because you're trying to be, I guess, in some ways accepted in the marketplace, and that makes you average.
We didn't even talk about this before the interview, but I'm actually 3/4 of the way through reading The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Yep.
And I'm assuming it's a book that you're probably familiar with. So I wanted to talk to you about that, about getting all your goals down to really just focusing in on that one thing. Talk to us about that and about maintenance versus progress tasks.
Yeah, so Pareto's rule states that we spend 80% of our time doing 20% of our tasks, and so pretty much in layman's terms, that says we spend way too much time doing stuff that is really not going to move us forward. And I always liken it to, if you ever speak to retired people, and they're like, oh my God, I'm just so busy. It's no wonder I ever had time to do my job. And I'm like, yeah, because you're filling your day doing maintenance tasks, stuff that is not necessarily going to move you forward in life, but then they don't have the same goals that we would necessarily have as working people. So I think once you have your goals, and whether they be SMART goals or whether you agree with those or whatever is almost irrelevant. It's about whittling it down to what is the stuff you could do, what is the stuff you should do, what are essentially maintenance goals. And a maintenance goal is something that if I did it, I would be no better off. I would be no more forward on the journey to change than had I not done it. Versus a progress task, which would be something that directly moves me towards the goal that I'm after. And so you have to figure out in your day, what is a maintenance task and what is a progress task. Once you have all your progress tasks in a line, you then have to prioritize them. So all tasks are not created equal. What are the priorities in your should do's? And then you whittle it down to, like you said, that one thing, that what is going to be that one task that I can do today that by doing it is going to make everything else in my progress list going to be that much easier. And for me, it would be picking up the phone. So for me, it would be talking to people, setting meetings, and exploring opportunities for what I do or how we can work together over the next 12 months. One thing.
Yeah. I have worked probably the last 12 months now, I'd say. I've worked pretty firmly on a philosophy of setting myself 3 key things to do each day. And I would classify those as my progress tasks. What I find really challenging, and I'm sure this is common amongst most people, is that it's hard not to do those maintenance tasks, because you feel as though, I've still got to tick all those things off my list. But personally, I've found that at least, I'm a whiteboarder, so I whiteboard everything, because there's something I find really satisfying about writing something on the whiteboard and then being able to completely erase it once it's done. I don't know what it is. I just love it. But if I identify and put down those 3 key progress tasks, as you call them, then I find that I can keep bringing my focus back to that. So every time I know that I'm going to get carried away and do some maintenance tasks in between, but I can keep coming back and going, have I completed? Have I completed? And then for me, as I said, I'm in the process of reading the one thing and absolutely loving it, by the way. For me, that one thing I think is like an overarching kind of like that BHAG focus or goal that I'm working towards. At the moment, I haven't quite been able to get it to just 1 key task per day. I'm still on 3, and maybe I'll progress to 1. But for me at the moment, I find that 3 progress tasks in a day and then having an overarching goal works really well for me.
Yeah, and there's chunking and blocking that I find works well for me, because even though you might have decided what your progress tasks are, like you said, the maintenance tasks still need to get done. At some point, you still have to get to the post office before 3:00 if you needed to get something in the post or whatever. So I find for me, chunking in terms of time and getting that written out on some visual display that I can see, I know very clearly throughout my working day, these are my working times and these are my, let's say, maintenance task times, or just time to step away from the computer. I can remember working full time for somebody back in London, and it was kind of when, Facebook started to emerge and everybody, there were lots of reports around Facebook being on the media and how much productivity was being lost to social media checking during work hours. Mm-hmm. But in actual fact, I was thinking it is impossible to sit there and stare between 9 a.m. and let's say 1 p.m. when you leave for your lunch break at a computer screen, focusing on one thing. And then you come back from 2 through till 5:30 and stare at the same computer screen at the same desk, if that's part of your role. To me, it's just an impossibility. Your mind wanders. You have to break the trance or almost. And so for me, I find that permission to step out of progress tasks into maintenance tasks, or just to have a complete break, fine. In order for me to do that, I schedule those in so I can actually see my day with those chunked blocks out.
Yeah, I love the sound of that, especially for the visual people out there. I think writing it down like that is a really good idea. And as you say, giving yourself permission. Because, if you are in that mindset where you're just powering on through, I think you become ineffective at some point. So if you take that break time and do what you need to do and come back to it, you get to refocus. So look, let's keep moving, because I would love to get your fit bizpiration, as we like to call it. And can you give us 3 quick tips for finding focus and avoiding distraction.
Okay, well, the first is always going to be your workspace in terms of avoiding distraction. So it's setting up the right workspace that actually is going to allow you to be in the best space to achieve your goals. So for me, I've just come out of writing this 30-day life hack program, and I know personally for me, I need silence in order to write. So the idea that I have the TV off, that I have all my alerts turned off, again, just for those chunks of period, and then I allow myself that time when everything comes back on. So, getting your workspace right in order for what your personal preferences are. And it might be that you need music on in the background to kill the silence. For me, it was the total opposite. All right, so workplace number one. 3 key tips for finding focus. It's understanding that as far as your attention goes, you only have the possibility of retaining about 7 plus or minus 2 things in your subconscious at any one given time, because it's kind of like a container, your subconscious brain. You can't keep piling information in order to have you retain stuff. So you have to take some stuff out. And with that in mind, I think knowing what you need to pay attention to versus all the other extraneous things that could be coming in. So if you're in a workplace, actually letting people know, hey, listen, for the next hour, I really need to not be disturbed because I'm working on something fully important to me, is number 2. So whilst you've got the immediate work environment as number 1, number 2 is letting the people around you know what's important to you in your workday, when is the right time to either be disturbed, not be disturbed, and what you need in order to move forward. And then I'd say the third thing for finding focus and avoiding distraction would be keep coming back to the questions. So it's almost like the perfect kind of loop around in this little chat that we've had. Keep coming back to the questions of what do you want to achieve and why are you doing it? And if you like to write it out and have it visually placed somewhere around your computer, just as you've done, great. If it's written down somewhere, if it's a mantra, if it's something that pops up on your screen every hour, if it's a screensaver, anything that will allow you to keep focused throughout the year, because I think that will provide you with motivation when the going gets tough.
I absolutely love that one. And when you said screensaver, a little light bulb just went off, because I'm going to whack that influencing action on my my screensaver right away. And I just want to mention that second one that you noticed is that you mentioned, Greg, is actually one of my favorites, when you talked about making sure that you tell people when you might need like an hour of distraction-free time. And regular listeners of the show will know that that's actually a key that I talk about, and that is having, I call it tiger time.
Right.
And if you haven't heard this term before, I actually first heard it from Amy Porterfield, who does the Marketing Made Easy podcast. And tiger time is basically setting a time in your day to accomplish a specific task. And the reason it's called tiger time is because it is a time that you're fiercely protective of.
Love it.
And I love the idea of naming it, because I find personally, and I'll probably use this sort of theory for about 18 months now, when I name that time and I say to my colleagues, or I say to my husband, or whoever it might be, okay, I'm going into tiger time for the next 60 minutes, then it's just known. It's known that that's my editing time. Do not disturb me. The social media goes off. The email alerts go off. Don't knock on the door. I'm in tiger time. And I love it. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is it also provides a little bit of clarity for those, let's say if you're a manager in a club or you're a team leader, where distraction, where you point yourself or you portray yourself as being open to people coming to speak to you, you want to keep your finger on the pulse. But all of a sudden, some of your behaviors when you've sent out that message actually aren't congruent to that thought process. Mm-hmm. So, if you're saying, listen, my door's always open, come and tell me everything, and every time somebody comes, you're like, no, sorry, not now.
Yeah.
That doesn't sit well. So it becomes disingenuous in terms of what you're saying. So, if you're clear with the people that you're working for, and I think it's great that you've described it as Tiger Time, then expectations are met.
Yep. Yeah, love that. Hey, Greg, you very briefly in that last answer, you mentioned your 30-day life hack program. So do you want to just tell us about the life hack program and where people can contact you to chat further or to find out more?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a labor of love last year. Like I said, I've had 25 years in the fitness industry. And then when I moved back to Sydney from having been in London for 17 years, I thought, okay, well, what's going to be the next thing for me? What does the next kind of 25 years look like? And having kind of experienced the industry in the way that I had, and also having a lot of personal things about, okay, well, I've changed country, I've left my job, I've, set up home in Sydney. How am I going to hack my own status quo? I went and accredited as a coach. So I did a diploma in coaching, leadership, and mentoring. And it just blew my mind because I was like, after all I've seen and done, how can I take this information now, which is so revolutionary to me, out to people who may never have access to this sort of stuff? So I took all the best bits, I put it into a 30-day program, which is basically chunked into 5 weeks. So you've got an awareness week, you've got a mindset week, a health week, a performance week, and a momentum week. And the whole process, although you probably won't get it done in 30 days, it's delivered via video and a workbook. And it's designed to change people's thinking and behaviors to allow them to live better and succeed faster. Now, it could be for you as an individual, as a partner, as a parent, but it's got very, very specific connotations for the health and fitness industry in terms of the way we train, being better able to get thinking and behavior change long lasting for clients, so that they're not caught in such a fail cycle. And I'm really proud of it as a product. I've got to get it up online. That is the next thing. I literally just finished it before Christmas. I started showing it to influencers in the industry in the hope that they just have front of mind, this is what I'm now doing. And my job now is to get it online in a downloadable format, which I will be doing in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And it'll all be available on gregseller.com.
Well, I'm sure that if people are interested in finding out more and chatting to you, they can jump over to gregseller.com, and I'm sure you've got an inquiry form or a contact us form on there that they can leave their information. And needless to say, what we will do is we will put Greg's website on our show notes, and when that program is released through the beauty and the magic of instant online updates, we will put a note in the show notes to put a link directly to your 30-day life hack program. So if you're listening to this in February or perhaps March, maybe it might not be up just yet, but if you're listening to it later on in the year during 2018 or any time, just jump on to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, check out this episode, and we'll make sure that we keep the link updated there, or head directly to gregseller.com. Greg, you know I'm a huge fan, and I'm so, so grateful for you taking the time to come on today. Always feel inspired after I've talked to you. So thank you so, so much, and all the very best with your 30-day life hack program.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's always great to talk, and I look forward to us next being in the same room.
Me too. Are you interested in increasing your centre's income and your trainer's income from small group training? Tribe Team Training is the new way to get more members engaged in small group training and paying extra. Click the Tribe Team Training link in the show notes or go to tribeteamtraining.com.au/podcast for your free formula to see how much income you can make from small group training.
Get ready for this week's bonus segment, your extra injection of information, education, and inspiration to strengthen your fitness business.
I'm joined today by Nicole Johnson, the Senior Sales Manager at Ursa. Hey, Nicole, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Chantal.
Now, I'm excited because you are joining us to talk about Ursa 2018. So give us a bit of an overview and tell us about this year's event.
So URSA 18 will take place in San Diego this March 21st to the 24th. And it's a great event. It's in our 37th year, and we expect over 12,000 attendees from 70 plus countries to come out. And we'll have about 350 exhibitors. You'll have the opportunity it's like going to a health club where you can see all the newest equipment, all the different classes and products to experience. It's going to be a great show.
Well, I can promise you that Australia will be represented. I know that there's quite a few Aussies coming over this year, which we're really excited about the show this year. So take us through some of the highlights. What can we expect as an attendee of URSA 2018?
Oh, great. So our research shows that networking is one of the key reasons why people attend URSA. And while technology has disrupted the market of networking, these days people still love to see face-to-face networking and spend time with their industry colleagues. So one of the things that we have is lots and lots of networking. We'll have the Fitness Business Podcast Networking Walk, which will kick off the event. We have the opening reception, and we have several regional receptions, including Planet URSA, which is for our international attendees. So a ton of networking opportunities and especially for women leaders as well. We'll have the URSA 9th Annual Women's Leadership Summit on Wednesday, where you'll hear from Denise Ryan, who will speak on leading everyone who isn't you. And I hear that her session is going to be very high energy packed and interactive and 2 hours of great fun. So you'll want to catch that. Attendees will also want to connect with higher level industry leaders should consider joining our Industry Leadership Council. They'll have a special ILC experience schedule that they'll be able to follow for leadership tracks. And they'll get exposed to Al Seegers, his session is Building an Innovation Tribe. And he and both Denise are faculty at our URSA Institute. So it's going to be great fun. I'm glad that they'll be able to attend the convention, and it will be really exciting to have them there.
Well, you know what, Nicole? So first of all, URSA 2017 was my first ever URSA, and one of the biggest things that I walked away with was how valuable that networking experience was, which is what you just touched on. So obviously that's something that everyone experiences across the board, because I personally felt like to be able to actually put faces to the names that I had heard before, to be able to meet some of the speakers that present the most amazing sessions, to me, that was incredibly valuable. So I'm glad that you brought up the networking side of things. And the other thing I didn't realise is I hadn't looked at the speakers at the Women's Summit. So I'm really glad that you brought that up as well. What day did you say the Women's Summit is on?
That's going to be Wednesday on the opening day, March 21st.
Excellent. Now, tell everyone who should actually be attending URSA. Who's it for?
So that is a great question. Well, URSA is a membership organization and serves a diverse group of clubs. And the URSA 2018 is going to be for anybody who is interested in member retention, staff retention, anyone who's facing fierce competition, who's renovating a club, who is pondering the sale or purchase of a club, and who wants to bring new innovative ideas and new technologies to their community should be there. A more simpler answer to that would be anybody with a mindset of growth and profit should be at URSA 2018.
Great answer. Now, really importantly, how do we go about actually jumping online and booking our tickets? Where do we go?
Sure. You can go to www.ihrsa.org/convention. So ursa.org/convention. You'll be able to see everything that the convention offers, from the speakers, the keynote speakers, the trade show, who's exhibiting, all our sponsors, and the pricing, of course, and get registered. You can also just give us a call here at 1-800-228-4772. And we'll take care of you by phone as well.
Fantastic. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining me today. I am super excited about URSA 2018. I love all of those highlights that you talked about. Thank you for throwing in the Fitness Business Podcast Networking Walk, which we're really excited about, and everyone is invited to. And I might just remind everyone to register for that walk, and it's a free networking event for anyone that's attending URSA and any member of the FBP family. You just need to go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, and on there there's a link to register for the URSA Meetup Walk. So Nicole, thank you once again for joining us. I'm going to put a little link down there directly to the URSA website so that everyone can check it out and jump on and purchase their tickets for 2018. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. And one more thing, Chantel, before you go. If anybody all of your listeners want to take advantage, there is a special promo code, which is my initials, NJSD for San Diego. You type that in and you'll get a free trade show pass, as well as save some money off the educational passes.
That's amazing. So the code is NJSD.
Correct.
Love it. I think we'll pop that down there as well. So Nicole, thank you so much for joining me today to chat about URSA 2018.
You're welcome. And we look forward to seeing you out there.
Pre-Core Quickfire 5.
This week's Pre-Core Quickfire 5 guest is Emma Barry. Hey Emma, welcome along and thank you for joining us for the Pre-Core Quickfire 5.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be with you.
Yeah, I am super excited for our interview today. Now, tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
Well, look, my number one strength every year is activator. So my greatest joy in life is helping to catapult people and products towards their full expression. And the fitness industry has been an awesome backdrop to do that in.
And tell us, what's one ritual that helps you become better at what you do?
Well, they're linked. 6 to 7 hours sleep, used to pride myself on 4 or 5, lost my executive function, and then a ruthless morning ritual around productivity.
And what's one app or system that you use to stay in control of your workload?
5-minute journal and the productivity planner used together, and I find it more creatively engaging to actually fill it out by hand.
What's one book, podcast or blog that you'd recommend and why?
Again, can't be one person. Seth Godin, marketer, Elon Musk, general legend, and Tim Ferriss, experimenter, because they are plotting our trajectory to the future.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Tim Ferriss as well. And what topic are we going to be chatting about in your main interview next week?
We're going to be learning from boutique studios.
Well, Emma, I want to thank you so much because I am so excited to have you on the show, and I cannot wait to welcome you back to the show next week.
Thank you so much. Can't wait.
Before we finish off today, a reminder that all the resources, links and transcript for today's show can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thanks to all of our podcast partners for their support, and thank you to our foundation partner, Active Management. Go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for a free business development ebook. Now, don't forget about that discount code from Nicole from URSA for 2018. Go to ursa.com, and when you register, use the code NJSD for your free pass to the trade show and discount on education. And of course, go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/meetup to register for our FBP family walk. Thank you for joining me for another week of the show. I will see you next week. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.